Hello and welcome to the Dive Quick Dip episode. Is going to be our new breaking news reaction type of line that we're going to try and keep up. Kind of started it with the Uzi one with his retirement and the last episode in previous weeks. But biggest news right now, Immortals just dropped this tweet. They didn't say pretty much anything else around it, just we've decided to part ways with LCS GM Keaton and LCS coach Thomas Zaboutine C. Hassan. We'd like to thank both of them for their work with Immortals, and a boom.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty out of the blue. One of the things that also struck me was, it almost feels like they're dropping like a. Yeah, I think so. Like mid split, 4 games in, they don't have that, as I understand, any person with a lot of experience that is stepping in and taking their spot. It's just like, get it out of there, like blow it up. It drops at like 9:30 p.m. Pacific. It felt like a little bit kind of like thief in the night, like let's just sneak it in here when no one's watching, which was a bit surprising to me. Usually announcements like that are kind of done afternoon or early afternoon. Usually they're alongside more of kind of like an in-depth plan on what's going to happen next. I do believe that they mentioned something about that. Like I remember reading somewhere who someone was going to be kind of covering in the meantime, but I actually can't find that now.
I remember seeing it, I think in actually the Reddit thread, but they're talking about like the coach or one of the managers from their Overwatch team, which I think is the Valiant, is coming over, and I think there's like an assistant coach that they're like self-promoting from within. I don't think they're hiring anyone new for it.
Yeah, like so the Overwatch League thing to me, like that, when I hear something like that, like someone within the greater organization but not with experience in the game is coming over to cover something, and maybe he does have background in the game, that to me feels like this was a knee-jerk reaction. Something happened, got to get him out of there, and got to make a change right away. It's different if it comes alongside an announcement where like, we have hired Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler to be our new GM and blah, 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 blah. And, this just felt like the time of night, the lack of like announcement of kind of the replacements was just surprising to me. So that's why I felt pretty out of the blue.
I will say that it's definitely common to like axe coaches in regular sports if you're having a terrible season and stuff like that. The break point of it being in the middle of the season right now is definitely surprising, and you're like, okay, well, why now? Because
it's only 2 weeks in.
The team's been bad for a while. But that's why I say it's not entirely out of the blue to me, because for a long time Immortals have been getting lots of flame for multiple stages of how this, like even when they first started and they hired Zaboutine himself, I know, there was a lot of skepticism around like, okay, he has no experience coaching, but it was brushed off with, nobody really has a lot of experience coaching LCS or professional League of Legends for that matter. And this to me, while it was kind of a spark and an instant like, oh wow, it's shocking that it's happening right now, I was like, well, the team has been struggling for a long time. Personnel choices definitely got a giant microscope on them after benching like Smithy, Apollo, Hakuo. So it's not as surprising as some choices.
I guess it just feels like the whole can of worms, you know what I mean? It's like it's all connected a little bit. It feels like they didn't do that bad in spring, and it felt like if they were so unhappy with how they did in spring, then they would have made those changes during the offseason, right? And then coming into summer, there's this shocking announcement that Smithy isn't starting, Apollo and Hakuo aren't starting. They're bringing up players from their 9th place academy team to play LCS, and then 2 weeks in, you're 0-4, and your coach and your GM both get axed. So it does feel like all kind of connected to me, in that perhaps the ownership disagreed with some of the roster choices or some of how that was handled, or there was disagreements between the players and the management, and the owners are siding maybe more with the players and saying, hey, like, we don't think they handled this properly. But it doesn't feel like just a standard, you haven't done well enough overall, like let's just get rid of you, because it just feels too random. 2 weeks into the split, you could have done this in the off season, and you could have done this before there was these big roster changes.
But part of the reason for me is like, this is kind of the MO. It feels like a little bit for Immortals, where like you don't get the clarity that you think you would want around some of these choices. Like that statement isn't followed up, like you were saying, with like, we're dedicated to bringing you the highest level, blah, blah, like even as a PR thing, some kind of one of those when we're looking and evaluating all levels of our infrastructure to bring you a high quality roster. Like they usually when teams do something like this, there's some, like you're saying, some kind of forward plan.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't feel like I ever hear a forward plan for Immortals. So it doesn't necessarily feel
it's on brand.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't feel any more surprising than any of the other things I've heard, in the past. And I think, that's where a lot of my criticism had gone for the organization. Wasn't like on specific players. And I'm sure we'll get into that part in a little bit. But it was always for me, like, people make mistakes. You can do bad things and like make errors in your judgment about which player you thought was going to work out or whatever it is, and like the synergy is not there, but you kind of owe it to the fans in the league to explain all that. Like Golden Guardians has better, despite being a team that has struggled a lot over their short tenure in the LCS. I at least feel like I see good effort from them to rationalize and explain themselves out.
They're trying their best.
They're trying. That's all.
Got some hustle. That's some pep to their step.
That's the most we asked for. The least we asked for.
This comes back to part of the reason at our first episode of Summer Split, when all the news about the actual roster changes and benching a lot of the LCS players came out, and the announcement of 10-person roster, I was very skeptical. And I said, this has got to be a symptom of deeper problems. This is not a good thing to have a 10-person roster in this case. This is an, oh, shit. We have 10 players here, and
we don't know what we're doing. So 10-person roster.
Where's the wall? I got the spaghetti.
So I feel like that. I feel like vindicated in my like power rankings and like looking at the beginning of the split, because it doesn't seem. And your point about the lack of planning is really there, because especially right now with COVID, it's almost impossible to get replacements for anything.
Yeah.
So it does take an extreme measure in a situation like this, where you're not going to be able to replace. It's already difficult to replace coaches, but especially with no visas, nobody can even travel right now. So changing the players or the coaches is super difficult.
It's difficult, but we still saw other teams making moves. Doublelift and TL with bringing Jat. Golden Guardians went out and got Demonte
between splits.
Yeah, like there are moves that could be made that you could then try to explain, but like the move was just swap out for parts in your Academy League team, but not really explain why you're valuing them higher,
Well, and that's why it's hard, I think, for Immortals fans and for people to really look at this as anything other than throwing the season in the trash and just saying, all right, let's prep for next year, right? And then that 10-man roster, I get it a little bit more. Potluck hasn't looked bad in the LCS. Maybe you're going to just start experimenting a lot, with your LCS games and start putting different people in, see what pieces are worth keeping, and then try to plan for next year for like a major overhaul, right? That's what this kind of feels like to me. But to talk a little bit about Zaboutine, I did look up I had the stats team help me look up some stuff, and I was kind of curious, like, what is your guys' impression of how he did overall in the LCS? Like, if you had to take a stab at like win-loss and this type of stuff, like around where would you put him? Because I'm just curious, and I don't expect you to get it right, but I'm just curious, like, where is public perception of how he's doing versus where he actually landed?
I think people forget that there were some okay splits with Optic. They made playoffs once. PoE got them really close another time, I think. I think they had a 9-9 season. So I would say like they were probably around a 40%, maybe a little bit worse win rate team, between 40 and 30%. Generally, I don't think that they ever finished above top 6. And I have a follow-up point, but Azael's smiling, so I'll let him drop the knowledge.
He can't wait to get this out.
Yeah, shut up.
I'm just impressed. 39-61 is his career record in the LCS. So an even 100 games, 139 of them. So you pretty much nailed it, Mark. Right around 40%.
Yes.
So I'm pretty impressed by that. But 40% win rate in the LCS, not impressive. But when you also look at the rosters that, Zaboutine has had, it's not as though he has had, star-studded lineups. And, when I try to be like realistic about if I put, these rosters that he has had with the coach, like what are my expectations? And honestly, winning a little bit less than half your games, like seems pretty good for what he's been working with over the last couple of years. Again, this is not like some, oh my God, you crushed it Hall of Fame performance where, you really took your players to the next level. But like, I have never once been impressed by one of the rosters that he has been working with. And we have seen some teams do a lot worse with sometimes even more. So it is interesting, and Immortals should be kind of like shooting for those higher heights. And obviously when they came into the LCS, they were absolutely crushing it and they had these, incredible runs. And I think that is what they were trying to get back to. So they were trying to strive for much more than what they have had. But Zaboutine, I've been seeing him getting roasted a little bit. I don't know what all is happening in the community, but, I have definitely seen some shots fired his way on Twitter and everything. So I at least wanted to like put out some numbers that I had seen to give people kind of a baseline of how he actually did.
Was that trying to help? Are you?
What? It's just trying to arm people with the facts, and people can make their own decisions. I think.
Before Kobe takes the negative side, I'll throw in one little more nugget. I talked to him a couple times at like different things between splits, and I know we had talked about budgeting and like. He was talking about how hard it is to evaluate how well a GM is doing for, say, Golden Guardians and Immortals versus TL.
If you have
with budget. Yeah, if you can literally throw $1 million at someone and that's a fifth of your budget or a fourth of your budget, like of course you're like, okay, yeah, I got Smithy, but then I also got Jensen, I also got Broxa, and like their big one signing is like equal to one signing from some of these other organizations. So like. On that level, I definitely see that. Like, I doubt that they had all the same resources, but I don't think that really does anything with the criticisms that I had with the organization about communication and being forward thinking and having an explicit plan. If your plan is to be like the low budget thing, like sell me on the Moneyball dream. I don't care if it's kind of BS, like give me something.
I do care if it's BS because I feel like Clutch tried to sell us on the Moneyball dream and we all hated it after one split because there was nothing to back it up. So like I kind of disagree with that. Like Clutch was like, Moneyball, we've got the numbers, we've got these stats that no one's looking at. We are evaluating people in such a different way. And Freak was like, yeah. Freak was loving it. He was so hyped up.
All right,
and then there was nothing.
That's not quite I know that I said Moneyball. That was stupid. But I just mean like saying that you have a low budget, and you're trying to find diamonds in the rough and piece together teams like that are a little different, so like
then go with young players, right? That's my issue with that is that, if you want to be the low budget team,
Kobe wants to tweak,
and I will let Kobe in here after this. But if you
want to be bouncing this whole episode,
if you want to be the low budget team, then it's like, why go for more known quantities? People have been around for a really long time. Eika was a very known quantity. Yes, not as much in LCS, but he spent a lot of time in European Pro and Semi-Pro. So has obviously been around forever. These are more known quantities. I would rather see people take shots with young players and undiscovered talents and try to find that diamond in the rough that can then maybe boost your team up.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a list. First of all, on Mark's thing on wanting to be fed BS of Moneyball.
Mark's like, lie to me, baby.
I'm just saying, give me something. I'd rather be given a pile of BS than nothing. I can work with BS.
I would not, because so we've had it multiple times where there are teams that are just like, oh yeah, we're working with this shoestring budget, but we're finding value in places that they're not. I'm like, okay, how are you finding this value? And they're just like, well, we're getting cheaper players to meet our budget. And I was just like, meeting your lower budget just because you have a lower budget does not mean you're moneyballing. Like you need to be finding and creating value somehow in a way that saves you money. Not that, oh, I'm operating under restrictions where I have less money. That doesn't just make you more efficient, just to say, yes, we have less money. So that's my problem with that thing. My other problem is like, this could be so much speculation with this. Even when you're like, oh man, if I was Zaboutine and I had those players, that he was put with. I know there's at least some level of input in finding the players, and of course they did have one of the lower restrictions on money and on resources. There's so much speculation that goes into all these aspects, and we really want to have inside info to be able to talk on it, because these types of like GM moves and coaching moves are what we are like partially like dipping into. And I'm so sad because I had actually requested an interview with Zaboutine for our intro of the Immortals game that I'm casting this weekend, and I'm pretty sure we're not getting that now.
You got something better to talk about.
If you got it, it would be pretty spicy at this point.
It would be actually amazing. Maybe I should just redouble my efforts.
Yeah.
Get
Triple
it.
your efforts.
Maybe all the info does come out. That's how we get away from the speculation. We can have some cold hard facts out there live. But I forgot the main point that I was going for. Got derailed.
Speculation, not being able to know what's going on, and that's why we like him. Like that's why I like at least having a game plan that I can critique, because otherwise, if you feed me that BS line about clutch, at least I can call it like you guys are BSing, and then there's a whole narrative there that's fun. This is just like
it's hard to evaluate a team fairly when you don't know the reasons for the different things, right? And that I think is maybe what you're trying to kind of get at, Kobe, right? It's hard to like place blame in one place or another place if you don't know who's responsible for what and whatnot. And that's kind of like linking to what Mark is saying, is the team doesn't communicate a lot. You don't always know the reason behind decisions, so it's like, okay, well, whose fault was it, right? And I do think that is kind of like a tough part. One of the most criticized moves has always been Eika. Right, this guy played in European semi-pro. Didn't have a lot of success there. I think he was briefly in the LEC, didn't have a lot of success there. Then all of a sudden, he's in NA on an LCS team starting. There was kind of like a lot of accusations of like nepotism or favoritism towards French players, because Zaboutine's French, and then they got Soaz, and they got Eika. Eika recently just came out last night, and tweeted that he'd only talked to Zaboutine one time in when he was on an analyst desk. For the French broadcast, and that was it. They weren't friends. They weren't like, club buddies, as I had heard it rumored, and various things like this. And he was also saying that it's like the criticism from the community has just gotten to like a fever pitch to where it's just like attacking Eika as a person and no longer as a player. And that is something that I think is like a line in the sand that I always want to keep pretty clear. I think it's fair to criticize play. I think it's fair to criticize, the player, but not necessarily the person, right? And I do think that people are maybe getting a bit too vicious, and some of the pros in the community were also kind of rallying behind him on this, because he has been getting targeted very, very heavily, and some pretty mean personal attacks are kind of being thrown his way, which is really just too far.
Yeah, of course. The bullying is always going to be too far. Go ahead, Mark, though.
I was going to say, like, it's unfortunate that he has somewhat become a receptacle for a lot of I don't know if it's the majority opinion, but definitely a loud opinion in the community about North America's over-reliance on imports and these kinds of things. And even Soaz probably has been one of these targets for people who are getting opportunities that they're taken away from North American talent, or that like they're just here for paychecks, or whatever you want to call it. And so like at that point, I don't even think you could take out any name there and put in almost anybody, and it's the same attack that they're going to be making, but they still make it really personal, which is why it's a little ridiculous to also put it on him. Like if you were going to criticize that, it would be Immortals and GM and Zaboutine a little bit, but also just like who's hiring everyone. Like that's a structure.
If someone wants to pay me $400K or $500K or whatever to play in the LCS, and I know I'm going to be the worst player in the league and I'm going to cost my team every game, I'm still accepting that paycheck. It's their fault, not mine.
You're part of the problem, Zale.
What, you should respectfully decline a massive pay increase?
I'm okay being part of the problem. I'll be a rich part of the problem.
In light of separating the personal from the facts, he was not a good mid laner.
No.
I mean,
sorry, Mark. You're laughing, but it's true, right? He's probably the bottom mid laner in the league.
He was bottom 3 in gold difference at 10, experience difference at 10, CS difference at 10, KDA. For last split, I'm looking at spring because it's a larger sample size. In summer, they also did not have a good start. He's actually last in KDA. But of course, a lot of this is also contributed to the team that's around you and how you're playing as a team. But again, him not being, him being one of the bottom mid laners in the league doesn't shouldn't open him up to a lot of these kind of excessive attacks, I think is the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of criticisms for his play, and I watched actually quite a bit of him last split on ProView because, I started doing Lane Kingdom, and I would look for these big discrepancies in lane and try to see how they were created. There was, just to be honest, quite a few with Eika, and very often off of, some critical mistakes that he made that then put himself in these really losing positions. And I do think that is like one of his biggest problems, is that he is prone to these really big errors that put him in such a hole, and that contributes to a lot of like his overall stats being poor. He is not always playing poorly, but he has these moments where he's gonna almost throw his entire lane off of one mistake, and that is something that at this level you just don't get to get away with, right? Especially in some of these really precarious matchups that can snowball. The one mistake can cost you the game. Something a lot of people also have been talking about in relation to Eika is if there's a new GM and new coach coming in, would they be looking for replacements for him? Golden Glue, notably absent from an LCS roster. That is someone that a lot of people are pointing to and maybe kind of like hoping or expecting, because I always feel like there's a lot of people kind of like cheering for Golden Glue, and it's interesting because I do think in general there's like the whole feeling of people who've been around for a long time and haven't gotten really good are like washed up and get them out of there. But then there's also like an element that is like, keep fighting Golden Glue,
anime
you can
redemption
do it.
arc.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, but I do think Golden Glue would be an upgrade. And I do think, even if you make a move like that, you pick up Golden Glue, you put Xfinity back in the starting lineup, you bring in Apollo and Hakuo, and you go from there. Like, I think the team is already looking a lot better, and in a position to at least start picking up some wins.
I think, for me, that's what I want to know going forward. Like, I'm not an Immortals diehard fan, but if I was, I'd be like, okay, you've gotten rid of what you are trying to sell me as the problems, or at least some of them. So what are you going to start doing now to also give me solutions? Is it, this GM from Overwatch I'm supposed to be excited about? Like, are you going to put out content around this guy to make me excited about him? If it's going to be players coming in like Golden Glue, like, are you trying to make a push for playoffs this split by bringing Apollo and Hakuho back? Or are you trying to figure out if Gates, like, someone you want to hold on to, like you kind of think with Potluck? Does that mean you should bring in Insanity as well? Like, these are the kinds of things that I would like them to not have all the answers with right away, but start selling the plan a little bit on whatever it is.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we're also having this conversation right after the need more North American rookies and talent, and get some of the old unmotivated players out of there, and then you're slapping down names that are that have been around for years and years and years, and we're like, get Golden Glue, Xmithy, Apollo, Hakuo all back in there.
Well, three of them are literally sitting in academy, right, on the same org. So that's why I think people are pointing to them. And then Golden Glue is just an obvious one.
Yeah.
If there is, I would equally be happy with them saying, all right, screw it, season's lost, boom, and bring in a bunch of rookies. Anyone that you think is promising, bring them in there, get them some experience. I would actually be totally down for that. What I would say, I am not down for is no change, right? If you're going to get rid of your GM, get rid of your coach, you're 0-4, you look like, definitely one of the worst teams in the league alongside Dignitas. If nothing changes after that, then it's like, well, what was the point, right?
Yeah.
Then you're just cruising and you're just like not really doing anything. So either you do the like win now option, which I do think is bringing up those known quantities that you have in academy, picking up someone like Golden Glue, trying to improve the roster. Remember, top 8 makes playoffs. That is not unachievable by any means, right? We're saying they're 9th, 10th. Move up one game behind playoffs. Exactly.
Yeah, they're one game behind.
So that is option A. Option B, if you're going to try to tank the season, then at least make it worthwhile in that you are testing new players. You're trying to bring up some new talent, find that next gem that you can hopefully build around for the future.
Yeah, I think it can be hard moving contracts around, and I know I've talked to some GMs about who are kind of lamenting about the difficulty of contract mobility even amongst academy players. because when you do look at this roster, that dream about getting a bunch of young rookies or younger players and throwing them out there and just giving them a crack at the LCS against the top talent and seeing how they look. They don't really have that right now, like Insanity is basically the only one with Potluck. Otherwise, most of them are older players. Like Gate has been around since season 3 or season 4. So it's not like he's necessarily new. I'm not saying he's peaked either necessarily, but just like he's not a new face where there are new faces in Academy to look at.
Yeah. I want to bring up a topic I thought was pretty interesting. I was talking to Keen about if we go back to 2018, Cloud9 benching of Sneaky, Jensen, these super popular players, these players that have been around for a while, and trying to inject, there was a huge backlash for trying to take out some of these, names that people are used to and have proven successes in kind of a similar pattern. And so it feels like you have to hone in on the right amount of time to give testing ground to rookies and to new talent. Of course, Immortals, even with their LCS roster, half of them in Academy, the Academy team is 2-2. So it's not like they went down there and they're smashing and they're like, all right, can't wait to have all the aces back in, right? So it's definitely a difficult situation.
I think to that point about the C9 thing too, though, like one thing they did well to the point that they were criticized was transparency. Like they were a little too transparent there where they like ambushed their players. Like, you're getting benched, cameras on you, like I'm not saying we need that level of like reality TV-esque transparency, but at least I can see the problems that they thought they had and why they thought this was a solution to fix it. Which, just to go back to that point one last time, because I don't know if I've hit it enough. Like, that's the kind of things that everyone watching needs to have to be able to get behind any of these changes.
Yeah, and with Cloud9, it was also a bit of a different situation simply because they were obviously, more successful, and those were the players that everyone kind of equated with Cloud9 success, right? So when this happened, it felt more shocking, more crazy. People
because it was.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
More shocking.
Yeah. But so people aren't necessarily, I think, up in arms as much about, Hako and Apollo, for example, right? Compared to the Xmithy one, because Xmithy, obviously has had so much success. He's the most successful North American jungler of all time. And it has been interesting, though, to me, how quickly people have kind of turned on Xmithy. When I tweeted out about, just hey, this Immortals thing has happened. I wonder if this is going to be in the return of Xmithy and some of the other LCS guys. I got a few replies, from various people that were like, Xmithy's like washed up. It's time for the new players. I'm like, he was in MSI finals last year, won 4 straight championships. It's not as though his success is so far removed. So I do think it's interesting because it really does feel like out of sight, out of mind. You have one bad split. Now you're in Academy and that's it. Everyone's done with you.
To be fair, he was criticized a lot during those times as well for his general attitude and I don't know about attitude, like motivation, I guess. He's always been known as the guy who plays the least, solo queue on his team. He's playing other games. He's always able to show up when it matters domestically, but has at times struggled internationally. So like, I think for him, it's a pretty unique case where he probably had people who already weren't happy at some of the
they were just waiting.
They were waiting. Yeah, probably. So, like you said, public sentiment can flip really fast. And he's not someone who cares about PR. It feels like too much where he's streaming and tweeting and all these things. He's a pretty low key guy. So it's not like he's out there doing damage control and PR and stuff like that. Where some players kind of do, like Doublelift will share his thoughts on why he thinks he's bad and why he's going to get back there or something. And you don't get that from Smithy.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because when you have those type of players, it's like if you don't build up your brand and your social and your streaming and all these things, as soon as you're at LCS, like there goes your income almost completely. It's kind of very different, and you almost have to be ready to like move on to something new or try to like really reshape what you've done. Whereas the players who have the success and the brand, it's much more clear like where they can go or what they can do next. So it is interesting seeing all kind of the different approaches.
Yeah, we might have to do a where are they now one of these times.
I don't know. Sounds sad.
I keep track because I just follow all the players on Twitter and stuff, and then the ones that drop out and move on to other things, I don't like unfollow them. But so every once in a while I'll get like, someone just graduated from college or something like that. I'm like, oh wow, someone just got their accounting job. Interesting. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well,
some accountant with 90,000 followers.
yeah, exactly. A very famous accountant. Well, I think that's going to do it for one of our first episodes of The Dip, I guess we're going to call it. These kind of quick reaction things. We want to be able to do some of these, especially because we are from home. It's easy to just pop on webcam and record one of these. So let us know what you think. We'll still be doing the regular full-length episodes, but we want to experiment a bit more. And also remember, you can send us messages at our anchor.fm link. You should be able to find those pretty easily in the YouTube descriptions or on Twitter. And you can send us a voice message and maybe get your question answered on next episode of The Dive.